So let's get started. I have known Alicia for what, 6 years? I don't recall. She was very active in Moms Demand Action. She is a gun violence survivor, which she will talk about. But for this meeting, if you have questions, Alicia, I'm going to say just put the questions in the chat, or do you want to be interrupted?
Either way, totally fine. I can monitor the chat.
Okay. So use the raised hand if you want to make a comment as Alicia is doing her presentation, and I will try to monitor. I see Marsha Lee has her hand up already.
Yes, I figured maybe you guys can kind of introduce your group to us since we're not really familiar with it.
So our group is a group of Indivisible. It's NWSOFA, which is Northwest Suburbs Organizing for Action. We are organized with issue teams. I think we have about 8 or 10 different issue teams, gun violence being one of them. Climate, Stand with Women, finance. We have a group called Restore Our Democracy, and we typically do monthly meetings on each one of these topics. That's NWSOFA, and we have been around. OFA originally was organizing. Obama for America, and then after he got elected the second time, it became Organizing for Action, and then when Organizing for Action faded away, we became a group, subgroup of Indivisible, which I think there are like over 6,000 organizations across the United States in Indivisible. So it's
Jim, I want to jump in to say that Bill is leading us. Kathy Carter is co-leading this entire group, and that I, Kathy Risberg, along with Natalie Warren, are the two co-leads of our gun violence prevention group. So, and Jim is just a person who's everywhere doing everything gun violence prevention focused, and we're so glad that he's introducing Alicia. I'll go on mute.
I would like to turn it over to Alicia. Why don't we get started? Alicia, it's all yours.
Yeah. So first of all, it's not just me who's going to present. We have a small but mighty group who has been focused on this issue for quite a while now. So we are here to talk about the Homicide Victims Families Rights Act and the Homicide Data Transparency Bill. So I'll let Rhiannon, do you want to do a little intro and then open it up to the group to introduce each other?
Sure. Hi, I know some of you on this call, but my name is Rhiannon Jimenez. I've been working in gun violence prevention for about 7 years now. I have worked a lot with Moms Demand Action. I was the legislative lead for the chapter a few years ago, but now I'm working specifically with this group of wonderful women to focus on these particular bills that we're going to discuss today. So we're here to discuss the Homicide Victims Families Rights Act, which is bill number HB 4753, and the Homicide Data Transparency Bill, HB 4754. So I'm not a survivor myself, but again, I've had the privilege to be a part of this group of gun violence survivors, all of which are on this call today. We've worked tirelessly for almost 2 years to bring these bills across the finish line. So both of these bills, just to give a current update, have been voted out of committee. We are anticipating that they will go, House committee, excuse me. We're anticipating that they'll go for a full House vote, not but the following week, so the week of the 29th. An extension, all of that is going to be filed so that they can have that full House vote for them. So we're really optimistic, really hoping that that these are going to be pushed out of the House as soon as we possibly can, because we really want to start focusing on the Senate. So today we're going to be providing some data. Alicia is our data guru. She's really wonderful with all of the statistics. We're going to be providing some data supporting the need for this legislation. We'll provide an overview of the bills themselves. But first, I want to have us go ahead and introduce our group members. Millie Burgos, you want to go ahead and start us off?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Rhiannon. Thank you, everyone on this call. And thank you. I was having some difficulties and Rhiannon was kind enough to send me the link. Thank you for that. So my name is Millie Burgos. I'm Alexandria Monty Burgos' mom. This bill means a lot to me. Both bills actually means a lot to me because the House Bill 4753, Homicide Victims Families Right Act, just as they were explaining. This bill will address the critical need to solve murder cases that are considered cold cases in the state of Illinois. As a mom, as a grieving mom, as my heart has a gap with their absence, Alexandra's absence, I desperately ask to please help implement this legislation to be passed, as it will help and keep murderers off the street and allow them to be held accountable for their vicious act of violence. My daughter was killed by a stray bullet on October 19, 2014. She was just waiting for my son to get ready to bring him home at a gathering. So again, this bill means a lot to me. The person who had a weapon shouldn't had the weapon, as he or she shot blindly. Again, this is a very important bill. My daughter should be right here with us, just like all of our children. They should be right here. My daughter should have continued her dream and career as she wanted to be a social worker. I'm her voice, like we're all our children's voices. And collectively together, we can make changes, and we have to be positive. And I believe in change. So I thank you, everyone. And I ask everyone to call your legislators and support the bill, HB 4753 and HB 4754. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Millie. Marcia, you want to go ahead?
I'm Marcia Lee. My son, Thomas Lee, was shot and killed in Harvey, Illinois, August 2008, and his case is still unsolved. Val?
Hi, my name is Valerie Burgess. My son, Craig Williams, was shot and killed in Chicago on December 28th, 2013. He left behind, in addition to me, Craig was also my only child, and he left behind two children who were 11 months and 19 months at the time, so way too young to even know or even have the opportunity to get to know their father. Again, his case is still unsolved, going on 11 years. Thank you so much for having us.
My name is Alicia Schemmel. My dad was shot and killed on August 14th of 1999. My dad was a ship captain. He was on his way to pick me up from driving a boat along the Chicago River when he stopped his truck to wait for a train to cross the tracks. And somebody parked their car behind his truck and got out and shot him 5 times, 3 times in the head and twice in the arm. And I made it to the hospital just in time to say goodbye to him, but he was not conscious. And it's been going on 25 years since that happened. No investigative leads, no suspect identified, no one ever arrested or held accountable. So just between the 4 of us on here, we have over 60 years of unsolved gun homicides. And we're not unique. Our stories are unfortunately very, very common in not just the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois, but across the country. So we have a major problem in this country of not solving homicides. I'm going to go into like a little bit of definitions first, just so that everybody's on the same page in terms of what homicide clearance rate means and arrest rate, and something that is called the exceptional means. So homicide clearance rate is the percentage of cleared homicide cases in a given time period. It's the percentage of murders solved either by arrest or by exception divided by the total number of murders in that given time frame. Exception means that they have identified the killer, but for whatever reason, they can't arrest that person. Some examples of exceptions are juveniles, murder-suicide, extradition denied. There's a whole list of reasons why they might clear a case, but nobody is held accountable, and they're going to essentially stop investigating that particular homicide case. So because a murder is cleared, it does not mean that someone is convicted. Reporting is voluntary. Currently, less than 70% of police departments report out their homicide clearance rates. And this is where we identified a huge problem in terms of gathering clear data, which then eventually led to the data transparency bill, because police departments are not reporting out their clearance rate data. So we can't basically make any, good evidence-based solutions to our gun violence problem, because the data is not clear in terms of how they are solving homicide. So back in the 1960s, about 90% of gun homicides were solved. In 2020, 48% of homicides were cleared, meaning that 52% remain unsolved. However, we only arrest someone in about 18.6% of homicide cases. And there was a huge investigation by a news organization called The Trace, and they really delved into this information. And that's where all these statistics come from. So then after that, it has actually gone down to 4%. So the number is somewhere between 4 and 18.6% of cases that an arrest is made. So the 30%, those are homicides that are cleared by the exceptional means category. So when police departments report out clearance rate data, they're going to report out the number of the 48%, but they're actually only arresting someone in around 18.6% of cases. So that leaves well over 80% of homicides where no one's ever held accountable, and they're out on the street and they know they can get away with murder, so they still continue to shoot and kill people. A few more data points. Homicides involving firearms are 22.1% less likely to be solved than homicides with other weapons. Gun homicide cases are cleared at twice the rate of gunshot assault cases. Cleared meaning they're not going to investigate any further. Some clearance rate trends. Police solve murders of Black people less often. Police solve cases involving men less often than those involving women. FOIA's of CPD data revealed that over 40% of these cleared crimes were done through exceptional means. You always see the headlines, and if you ever notice at the end of any newscast, you'll likely hear that no suspect has been arrested. Police are still searching for the shooter. It's kind of like a common theme that we see across news articles, particularly in Chicago. And Rhiannon, I'll turn it over to you to give an overview of the bills.
Thank you. Just to kind of bring it back to really what Ari was talking about before, the overarching theme of these bills is really accountability. And when you take the time to listen to survivors of gun violence, you're going to hear a lot about the importance of accountability, not only on the part of those that perpetrated the murders, but on the part of the police as well. So these bills, again, are about accountability, but they're also about building a bridge between the police and the community where other community policing efforts have fallen short. And I think, with some of the initiatives that I'm going to describe in these bills, we're really trying to work toward a cultural change within the police, a more, just kind of a change in that they're really serving and protecting those that need it. HB 4753, which is the Homicide Victims Families Rights Act, provides survivor families with cold cases over 3 years old an avenue to request a re-review of their case. This includes the assignment of a new investigative team, interviewing witnesses, and examining evidence with the latest techniques, which could lead to the resolution of the case. This bill would also require police precincts to designate a specific number of what we call family liaison officers, proportional to the number of homicides committed in their district over the last 5 years. Now, I know some of you are probably familiar with the family liaison detectives that are in the Chicago Police. What this really does is expands and defines these that we feel will be most advantageous to the communities that they serve. So the family liaison officers will serve as part of the investigative team. Again, these are police officers. They'll be specially trained in trauma-informed policing, and with guidance from the lead detectives, the family liaison officers will take statements from survivor families, serve as a single point of contact for substantive updates regarding their cases. You hear stories time and time again of people camping outside of police precincts, trying to get an update on their loved one's case, presenting evidence to the police and not hearing anything back. It's just really a way for them to have what all survivors are looking for is information and accountability for those that murdered their loved ones. So they will serve as a single point of contact for substantive updates, again, regarding their cases, as well as provide them with information about resources available to them, such as programs like crime victim compensation, which is a very underused program, just because a lot of people just don't know about what's available to them. The second bill is the Homicide Data Transparency Bill. This bill increases police accountability. This is HB 4754. And just as an aside, I did put the fact sheets that we have in the chat. There's links to the Google Docs there. Please feel free to take a look at those. So this increases police accountability through clarity in homicide data reporting. It requires that each law enforcement agency in the state of Illinois publish monthly on their website the number of homicides that occurred in a given month within the law enforcement agency's jurisdiction, the number of homicide investigations which resulted in an arrest and or charges being brought against the perpetrator, kind of taking out the exceptional means clearances, so that we have a really clear idea of what's going on. The number of homicides that were considered cleared or closed for a reason other than arrest, as we were discussing exceptional means, as well as the number of non-fatal shootings in a given month. Why is this important? This will allow police leadership to identify where changes can be made in police procedures and tactics to allow for increased effectiveness. This also will allow policymakers to assess the impacts of any enacted legislation on homicide rates in any given area of the state. That'll assist them in identifying changes that need to be made to existing legislation, or if there's a need for new legislation. It also will allow the public to be aware of what's happening around them in terms of homicide rates, and really just advocate for change where needed. I think the police department is just one of those jobs that it doesn't seem like the public, can hold people accountable, or, we all go through performance reviews at our jobs. Well, how is that handled? How can we judge the performance of the police department? And really what we need is data. Law enforcement often says that the lack of community willingness to participate in investigations contributes to low homicide clearance rates. You hear that time and time again. These bills will increase community trust in police, encourage community participation in investigations, ultimately help to solve murders. As a collective, we really owe it to survivor families and our communities as a whole, and legislators owe it to these families and communities to do everything we can to get violent criminals off the streets and make Illinois safer. With that, I'm going to go ahead and just kick it over to Millie Burgos, and she's going to kind of bring us to conclusion.
Thank you. Thank you again for allowing us to express feelings, our thoughts, and to take action. I just want to say, please contact your state representatives and senators if they have not already signed on, and let them know of these crucial, important bills. We're not doing it just for our children, but we're doing it for all state of Illinois and all the families that unfortunately still have cold cases. And again, I want to thank everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Alexandra Mani's mother, and I'm also her voice. Thank you.
If anybody has any questions, please let us know. Again, as Millie said, if your House rep has not signed on to these bills as of yet, we would appreciate if you would give their office a call and let them know how important it is for them to sign on. What we're really trying to do also, like in tandem, is educate the senators related to the bills that should be coming down the line. Like I said, we're pretty optimistic about it. I don't like to call a race before it's over, but we're pretty optimistic that everything is going to pass out of the House. So we're going to hit some walls in the Senate, and we're hoping that by the time everything gets over to them, that we kind of have a head start in educating them and making sure that they're aware of what's coming down the pike.
Rihanna, how does it look in the Senate? I mean, is there something in there that they can set up as a co-sponsor yet, or is it just still in the House?
It's still in the House right now, but we actually do have a sponsor. Senator Robert Peters who you all know, and he's just great. But he's actually going to be the chief sponsor. We have Kimberly Lightford. We actually did speak with her. She was, she's on board with the bills. She feels pretty good about them. Even mentioned maybe being a chief co. We did have a conversation with Don Harmon. I think you're in his district too, right, Jim? I'm not sure.
I'm in Dan McConkey's district, who he votes against every gun bill that there is.
This isn't necessarily a gun bill, actually. It doesn't address gun ownership.
Yeah, this is an accountability bill. Let's say that. But yes, I'm cautiously optimistic about the Senate. We did have a conversation again with Harmon, Don Harmon. And, for him, he seemed pretty interested in the whole thing, but you never can tell with that one. So
we've got a group from the Palatine League of Women Voters who are now trying to set a meeting up with McConkey, but he is being very hard to pin down right now.
Yeah. And Val actually put in the chat, and she makes a really good point. The way that we've been talking to legislators is really trying to focus them on, this is a survivor-centered, survivor-led bill. And you don't see that a lot. I've been doing legislation for a long time, and I can't even think of a time where we've had a package of bills that has been solely survivor focused. As you're in your conversations with legislators, they do seem to really respond to that and kind of staying away from, this is a gun bill. And focusing a little bit more on that. That's really what we've been doing.
So, Joyce, you have some questions?
Just a couple questions. One was, are there any witness slips that we need to sign? And then also, is there funding somehow tied in the bills, or is that just something that would just come out of the budget afterwards?
There will be witness slips once the bills go to the Senate. Right now, we're waiting for that full House floor vote. It's not in any committees or anything like that. It's been voted out. But once it gets to the Senate, it'll go to committee, and then there'll be a slip opportunity. With regard to funding, and Alicia has worked a little bit on this as well. But, what we're kind of the way that we're saying it is that it's really a restructuring. So the family liaison officer in particular will be taking some duties off that lead detective. So they're taking statements, they're fielding calls, they're doing, so it doesn't necessarily need to be an add to staff. It could just be you're designating someone within your office. And it is proportional to the number of homicides that are within your district. So those districts maybe that are smaller, that don't have as many homicides, wouldn't have to have, a staff of 10 flows. It's just, that's kind of the way that we're putting it. But Alicia, did you have anything to add?
No, I'll just say, so that is 100% true. It's the way that the bill is structured is that the funding isn't necessarily needed, especially downstate, because it's in proportion to the number of homicides they have per jurisdiction. The bill is modeled after a federal bill of the same name, the Homicide Victims Families Rights Act, and that was passed by the Biden administration back in 2021. And it's almost the same thing, minus the family liaison officer component, and they don't have a data bill. But there's the caveat in the federal bill was that there is funding available if each state passes its own version of the federal bill. So there is federal funding available for states to tap into as well. And I'll just add one more. Oh, go ahead.
No, I would suggest that you send the information on the call, have the action to call, and then also the witness slips when it's available to Bill or Kathy or Jim, so that we can send this out to our network and make sure we get people to sign on.
We'll definitely keep you all updated. Thank you.
Yeah, we sure will. I will just say that it's all about accountability. And I don't personally think that we're going to end gun violence in this country until we start a complete culture shift, which we've already started. So in the past 10 years, there is a major shift in culture and language and everything that we do around guns, including safety and everything. But accountability is not just with the gun lobby, the gun manufacturers, the people who own the guns. It's about the entire spectrum. Every piece of the gun from start to finish there is an issue of accountability, and all people who are involved with that gun need to be held accountable at the point in its lifetime.
Alicia, I wanted to jump in and just thank you and Millie and Marcia and Valerie and is it Rhiannon?
Yeah.
For being here tonight, because this is just so amazing. And I noticed that Natalie is here. I mean, the work you're doing is so important. And, you know, the heart behind the work, the experience behind all of this, but your incredible fine minds to craft this and put it together and to not reinvent the wheel, but to take the federal legislation and, you know, leverage that, you know, as Jim said, they are doing with the safe gun storage bill is wonderful to know. And so it's, you know, I feel better and safer about the world knowing that people like you are out there, you know, doing this and taking, you know, existing pain and putting it into such a incredible life-changing direction.
And
Thank you.
I think require police departments to keep data. Just a little, 2 years ago, or like 4 or 5 years ago, we passed the regulation where the state police, Illinois State Police, were then responsible for maintaining our gun dealers, taking away that responsibility for the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. So 2 years ago, after they took 2 years to come up with their rules, I gave them a year to do their inspections, and then I filed a FOIA for what gun dealers have you inspected? Well, they don't keep that data in any one form that you can get. So I said, okay, then just tell me what. I had to file 4 FOIAs, and I had to narrow it down to just give me the information on Cook County alone. And they don't keep it in a database. Well, all they do is they have the report that the police filed when they did the inspection, and you just get a copy of that. It's not in a database or anything. So I think this issue of requiring police to keep data, that's the only way that we are going to get this under control.
And report it out to the general public so that we know how many people you're arresting in homicide cases. And let me tell you about FOIAs real quick.
Yeah.
Marcia and I both FOIA'd our cases, and we got nowhere because both of our cases, I FOIA'd with CPD and the FBI. And I was told from both of them that it's an open and active investigation. So they won't release any information to me. But they're not actively investigating anything.
25 years old, and then they're still calling it active.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're not able to get any of the information from them, but you can't work with anybody else because you don't have any information. So even if I wanted to solve the case on my own, it would be impossible. So I don't know. The person who killed my dad is still out there living their life, walking around. I don't know if they know where I live. I don't know if they know where my kids go to school. You know, there's a lot of things surrounding an unsolved case that people don't know about unless it's happened to them.
And I'd like to add that, again, my son was killed in Harvey. And when I sent the FOIA request, I think I got 3 different responses saying that they really could not find the file. They couldn't find the file. It's been 15 years now. And they pretty much said that they were looking for it. And the last, and they kept asking for extensions, of course. And the last correspondence I received, they said they were sending it to the agency who has it or something to that effect. So that, you know, that doesn't make sense to me. He was killed in Harvey. Harvey police is supposed to have at least their local offices files.
Yeah, Marcia, that would be a heartbreaking realization, you know, to hear someone say, no, we don't have the file. And you've got to wonder what the heck is going on.
But back to holding accountability, though, once that's said to you, what is the structure to hold them accountable for that? See, that's what I'm saying. When they make these very blind, idiot type statements, all Marcia could do is say, okay, no, that's not correct. There should be a way that you can file a case against them for not having the data. Yes. Holding them accountable. There should be, and I can't remember the term for the types of lawsuits against a structure that does not support supposedly democracy. How do you support a democracy when you say, "Oh, we found it. We can't find it. We lost"? No, there ought to be a way you could file a lawsuit, and we're not talking about money, but a structural lawsuit that says you are accountable for this. If you do not continue to do this, our tax dollars, the tax dollars that we're paying, will no longer go to this to your department. And then find other ways to have, and some border, if you're at Harvey, maybe Dalton can become the police department for the Harvey community.
Not them, but they would pass the assignment, they'll pass the case to someone else. There was no consistency, or not just numbers. They were human beings, and they should all be here right now. So this is why we feel so passionate about these bills, because something has to come from this. And we just, want the perpetrators to be held accountable. They should not be out there killing someone else or hurting someone else, and having other families the way we feel, having them feel this way. We shouldn't be living like this.
Well, Millie, I think that's a big issue. I think once they get away with it, they feel that they're not going to be caught. So
Exactly.
You're right. They're probably out there doing it, killing somebody else.
Exactly. And then that's why we say that these bills are so crucial and important. And again, thank you everyone for, listening to us and supporting us. Thank you.
Yeah, Millie, I was going to say, just hearing you as a survivor talk, and I'm so sorry for your loss, and for Marsha's, and for Valerie's and Alicia's, it puts, obviously, the faces to the numbers, right? We hear statistics as advocates of gun violence prevention, and yet your stories are key in making change in this world. And you are the reason we're here. This is why we meet all the time, for you.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome to figure out a way that we can offer our support to survivors, and just know that we're here all the time.
Thank you.
And I want to turn this over to Natalie to say something right now. Natalie, if you are up for it.
Again, I second everything Kathy just said. I totally agree. I was going to say that I heard Alicia speak. It was more than 5 years ago, I'm sure, when Sarah Koniecznik was still doing the coalition meetings for people who have memories that long. And I was just so struck with your story that it stayed with me. And then eventually I started seeing your name turn up other places, that all the things that you mentioned about these unsolved crimes and the things that make life more difficult for people who are trying to carry on were so compelling. And I'm so glad that you were able to come and to bring, other people with other insights into this issue. I know that you were all down at Advocacy Day on Tuesday in Springfield, and we were at another meeting last night, the Alliance Against Gun Violence meeting, and we heard a report from Lauren Harper that she really seemed positive about some progress that had been made. And she's on the board with the Alliance. But I wondered if you had said anything about the Advocacy Day and what you thought you got accomplished specifically for your bills this week.
Yeah, it was great. I think it was so successful, and I'll let the others add too, but we targeted the Senate because we're almost out of the House. Rep. Buckner had to leave early from the House floor today because he had to attend to a funeral. So he had to file an extension on the bills. The data bill was supposed to be voted on this week, but he had to file an extension on both of them. So they're off next week. So they will be brought to the House floor for a full vote beginning of May. So like not this next week, but the week after that, they'll go for a vote. We have already, I think, I list 25 and 26 co-sponsors on each bill so far, and that doesn't include any yes votes. So I'm very, very confident that it'll be voted out of the House. So that was our reason for targeting the Senate when we went down to Springfield on Tuesday. We got at least 10 senators to sign on as co-sponsors, including we have the 3 that I know of for chief co-sponsors. So, and then a few others that would also committed to voting yes. So I think we need, I can't remember the numbers that we need to get it out of the Senate, but Rhiannon and Millie also met with Senator Harmon, who we think will be the biggest sticking point, but they had a very positive meeting with him. And when we had met with him previously, he was a little bit negative about the bills, but now he's completely turned around. I don't know if it's all the talk that we've been doing about it and the number of co-sponsors that have signed on to each bill, or if he's suddenly seeing that, yeah, we do need to close these cases and hold shooters accountable. But he seemed very positive about where the bills were going. And then Marcia and I had back in October briefly met with Governor Pritzker, and he's agreed to sign the bills when they get to his desk. So we just have to get them through the Senate, and then they'll be signed into law.
That's tremendous.
Yeah.
The members of our group are everywhere. Everybody's been just working it. So yeah, it's pretty impressive. I really think the number of if I do say so myself, the number of co-sponsors, and I've seen a lot of bills with way less co-sponsors pass. So I think, we're definitely in good shape, and I'm feeling optimistic about the Senate, like Alicia was saying. So how about you, Millie? Where's she at?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I was, and like Alicia had mentioned, we seen Representative Harmon, and at first there was not positive feedback, but this time when we went there, I don't want to say the word suck it to him, but we kind of broke it down, and he was very positive, and it gave us hope. So this is what we want. We want hope, and we know that there could be change. And again, together, collectively, it could happen. We just have to be positive about it. For sure.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
I think this shows, what, you guys have been working on this for 5 years?
Oh, a long time.
Yeah. We all know this gun violence doesn't our bills don't happen overnight, but we can't give up.
Mhm.
We keep on. I remember that Don Harmon gun dealer licensing bill. That was 10 years.
Mhm.
10 years to get that passed.
Yeah, it takes all of us. So these
Yes,
meetings are
it takes
super
all of us.
important. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. It was really great to be here and to talk to you all. Really appreciate it.
Thank you again.
Thanks,
Well,
everybody.
thank you so much, all of you for coming and sharing and encouraging us all. And please, keep us in contact in terms of, the witness slips and reminders, maybe to contact our senators, that we can get out to, our much broader membership.
Yeah, we sure will. So session ends May 24th. So we're kind of down to the wire after they have off all next week. So it only gives us a few weeks. So we will reach out.
Gonna be
So
crunch
if it
time.
passes in the House
great.
and it goes to the Senate, can the Senate vote on it in the veto session?
It'll have to go to committee first.
Yeah.
In the
Okay.
Senate. So I'm assuming it's going to be, I don't know if the Senate is judiciary criminal, but I believe that's probably the same name. So it'll probably go to the Jude Crim committee. They'll vote it out, and then we'll go along in the process. If it ends up in veto session, if I'm remembering correctly, you need, I think it's more votes in veto session. So we're
I think
kind of
that's
hoping it's regular
Yeah, I think that's only
session.
to override a veto,
Oh, okay.
I think.
Yeah. I'd have to look it up. I used to know this stuff off the top of my head, but I can't remember right now. But yeah, we're hoping in the span of the regular session that we can get something done. But it's gonna be crunch time after we get it voted out of the House. So we'll be screaming it from the rooftops for everybody to to do what they can.
You thought we were annoying before.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Well, okay.
No problem. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for having us.
Thank you
Yes.
for coming.
Having us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Bye-bye.